Welcome back, Nick Lenz. Comic Corner Classics / Non-Classics. This is episode number 1278 and Doubleshot number 1172. Basically, I have two Marvel trades, but the first one is going to be the Unbeatable Squirrel Girl, Big Squirrels Don't Cry. This collects the first 11 issues of the Unbeatable Squirrel Girl Volume 2 and Howard the Duck Volume 6, Issue number 6. Yeah, this is a combination of about two. This is a digest version of a combination of the first two volumes. I believe it's a combination of like volumes 6 and 7. Most of the issues is simply put Squirrel Girl versus Doctor Doom, dealing with basically future version of herself, who also plants seeds for later. But yeah, I can't think of anything. Well, the other issues I've already discussed already, but the first few issues I've never discussed before because my local library didn't have Volume 6, so I figured the one I get to discover those issues. Yep. Now, Ryan North is, I believe, he's the writer of these issues. But the artist of these issues is Erica Henderson. Worked by Jacob Colbert. Yes, he does issue 11. 6 is basically just, well, remember Chip Zdarsky. But that was the first few issues, but not a lot to say about this. It just good. Give this book roughly a 9 out of 10. Yeah, not much else to say about the Unbeatable Squirrel. I'm getting really close to wrapping up that series. Yeah, there's roughly about just a couple of trades left, and that's it for Unbeatable Squirrel Girl. Alright, next up is Giant Size XMen. Yeah, this is a trade paper that collects all the Giant Size X-Men one-shots. Jean Grey, Emma Frost, Nightcrawler, Magneto, Phantom X, and Storm. Now, there's I think Hickman writes all of these. Yeah, he writes all of these. With all work by various people. We have Russ Durham, who does the first one-shot, Jean Grey and Emma Frost, and the last one, Storm. Nightcrawler is by Alan Davis. Magneto, the work for that one's by Ronald K. Perez, and Phantom X by Rod Reese. Now, when they decided to bring these back, apparently this is all Hickman's idea to bring back the giant size X-Men stuff because he loves this stuff. Their teasers are simply just it's 5 one-shots focusing on the X-Men outside of the main X book. The first one is focused on Emma Frost and Jean Grey, two women who have never gotten along before, ever in the comics. It's probably because in fan fiction they get along really well to the point where they get into a sexual relationship, believe it or not. Yes, people love to see these two in a lesbian relationship in fan fiction. No, it does not happen in regular Marvel comics because even Marvel knows to keep Jean Grey and Emma Frost straight. Despite the fact both these two women have slept with Scott Summers. Though Jean Grey is the one who actually has married Scott Summers. In the case of the relationship between Emma Frost and Scott Summers, it never got to the point where Scott was going to propose to her. Nope, never did. Though in the case of the Jean Grey Emma Frost one, that kind of basically leads into the Storm one. Yeah. These are all just a series of adventures following these characters. Like, though some of the stuff could imply could take place before the start of the series. So the first one just basically, a lot of the Emma Frost and Jean Grey one is basically kind of like a silent issue, mostly, of them helping out Storm. And turning out the Storm they say was not the actual one. So and they deal with the Children of the Vault. In case you're curious though, who the heck are the Children of the Vault? They are a group of mutants from Mike Carey's run for X-Men Volume 2, which became X-Men Legacy. They popped up during the early portion of the series for his run, and then he just stopped having appearing for no apparent reason. Yep. Nightcrawler one just simply just a haunted house story, though his story features, well, Lockhead, Doug Ramsey, iBoy, and Magic. Gotta love this artwork. It is so good. Yeah, just and they actually find Rachel Gray, who is a hellhound for some reason, and just basically go on a big, huge adventure. That's basically what it's really fun. And I don't think it's the first Alan Davis has drawn Magic. I think he drew her back in some New Mutants issues. But it is an interesting issue. Magneto. This one was so cool. Yes. Magneto basically talking to some sailor who also interacts with Namor. It's basically just Magneto just going around talking to people, making deals, and fighting a giant squid. But it's a really interesting issue. It goes on a good pace, this one shot, but there's not really a lot to say about this. It's just that apparently the artist loves depicting Emma Frost smiling way too much. Yep. And it just basically ends Magneto gets on an island. Phantom X, it's just a Phantom X story. Yep, it focuses on Phantom X, who hasn't really appeared a lot in the last several years because Marvel just scales back like a lot of characters from the X comics for absolute reason. It's just a story focused on him and him welcoming people to the world. Him also working with Hellfire Club. By the way, with Phantom X here, you're probably thinking, does Betsy Broderick's ex-girlfriend show up here? Nope, she doesn't. She doesn't show up anywhere in the issue. Yeah, and also have, at one point we have basically, looks like basically have Cyclops and Wolverine wearing their Grant Morrison costumes for reasons. And of course, Phantom X encountering a High Evolutionary. No, not the High Evolutionary, a High Evolutionary. Yeah, it's a subspecies that popped up in the storyline First to Last by the writer of X-Men Volume 3, when published from 2010 to about 2012. Yeah, they appeared in that second story arc. It's interesting how they pop up here, but the ending of this thing just sets up the Storm issue. Which is Storm, basically, with Emma Frost and, well, Jean Grey. Also, we also have Monette in this issue. Now, it's interesting to see Monette, because the last time I think I saw her prior to this was back in X-Men Volume 4. That was seriously the last... Actually, no, that was actually not the last I saw her. It was actually Generation X. So it's great to see her, and without her brother basically possessing her. This woman has had a few different guys trying to control over the years. Darwin has been in love with her. Strong Guy has had a strong crush on her for years. And she's never got a relationship with anybody, strange enough. Yep. Mostly put, this issue is just... Also, we also have appearance by one of the new mutant characters. I think this is... I don't remember who this Spike woman is. I think it's Spike. I don't remember what this woman's name is, but they have this person here. We deal with AIM, and basically it's all like the X-Men one-shots just lead to this one-shot, and that's it. These are good one-shots, what they are. I would say none are weak. They're all really good. Give this book roughly a 9.5 out of 10. Damn good book. And with that, that is the last of the X books that came out prior to X of Swords. I keep thinking they're over there. Now, I do have pretty much all of them. A lot of them I bought from Barnes & Noble, some I bought from Amazon. Now, this is a lot. This is all the X books that were released prior to all the stuff that came out. How would I rate them per se? The one-shots are basically their own thing. Well, you have the main series, X-Men Volume 5, which, oddly enough, this series continues the legacy numbering of Uncanny X-Men. Yeah, though these two trades just collect the first 12 issues of it. But here's something quite strange, though. Here is the first two volumes for New Mutants. Yes, this was both they say Volume 1. Of course, that was by... Yeah, there's something quite strange with these trades. None of them have basically a subtitle with them. It's just this week Easter egg is called X-Men by Jonathan Hickman, Volumes 1 and 2. This one here is New Mutants by Jonathan Hickman, Volume 1. This is New Mutants by Ed Brunson, Volume 1. Despite the fact that neither writer takes over after X of Swords. Nope, it's a completely different writer. And next you have X-Force by Ben Percy, which is one of the more recent books I got. Yep, this series. Which, I love this series. It is really good. Let's see. Here we go. And then we have Excalibur, Volumes 1 and 2. Though I think that the second volume for this series is not as good as the first story arc, but it's just really interesting for what it is. Then you have a series that was good, that's definitely good for 12 straight issues. Marauders, by far the best of the X-Men spin-off series. Oh yes, the best one. The weakest of all the X books, Fallen Angels. Yeah, this book is the weakest one of the entire group. Then you also have the only miniseries for this initiative, Fantastic Four plus X-Men. Yeah, deals with basically stuff related to the Fantastic Four mostly. But it's interesting though, they set this miniseries up as a plot thread from the House of X, Powers of X miniseries. And then you have these 4 series that just started. Just this year. Actually last year. Wolverine by Ben Percy. Cable by Gary Duggan. This is actually the most recent trade I reviewed just prior to this one. And oddly enough, it's the only one that's the color orange. XFactor by Leah Williams. I was surprised they brought back this series. And of course, Hellions. Yep. Now, the thing with Fallen Angels is, when that series ended, it was meant to be replaced by 2 series. Cable, which I do have. The other, of course, was Children of the Atom, which has been delayed like crazy, and finally to come out in, like, next month. I don't know why the heck this series took so long to come out. Though, I think of all series, now, Marauders is the only one that's actually an original series. As a series, the title. Hellions is not an original title. Nope. There actually was a Hellions series published prior to this, though it was a spin-off of New X-Men Academy X. That's what that was. But this one's focused on Havoc against Band of Teen Mutants. But one thing interesting, though, about all these titles, now, technically there's only 2 solo titles. Basically, just these 2 here. Cable and Wolverine. Mostly for these series, it's just, well, what are we going to do with all these, there's a lot of X-Men characters. So what does basically Hickman do? Put them all these books. Like, for this series, it's focused on the Summers family plus Wolverine. Because why not? New Mutants is mostly like the classic mutants mixed in with characters from Grant Morrison's New X-Men. Basically, Glob, yeah, he's from Grant Morrison's run. Armor is from Joss Whedon's series. It's mostly focused on some of the more younger X-Men. That's simply what this series is. It's not called Young X-Men, it's called New X-Men. Plus, I love the logo. Despite the fact it reminds me a lot of the movie logo. Despite the fact I heard the movie's not very good. Now, I think what New Mutants is, now, of all these titles, now, New Mutants was last published as a series. This is technically the 4th volume for the series. Last time it was published was back in 2012, when that series ended after 50 issues. Now, this series, X-Force, was published just prior to the relaunch of all the X books. Though that series was when that was by Ed Bronson. Of course, when that was launched, that was the first X-Force title in about 5 years. Well, not since Cy Spirit wrapped up his run for X-Force. As in the case of Excalibur, this was the first time when the series came back like 2 years ago. This was the first time since I think it was like 2004. I think. Let's see, how long it was new, because basically New Excalibur basically came out just after. Let's see here. Yeah, back in 2007. Yeah, that's when the last series ended. Yeah, this came back in 2019. 12 years later. That's when they brought this series back. And I definitely think it was a good idea. Gives his character something to do. Marauders is by far, has a similar feeling of Extraordinary X-Men, despite the fact it's a pirate series. But in my opinion, it's basically the best of all the X-Men spinoffs. Yes. Fallen Angels was a series that was a mini-series that was published back in the 1980s. Yes, the 80s. It was an 8-issue limited series. This was 6 issues. Probably canceled low sales. Let's see. As the case of these other titles, well, Helion's, well, that was about 2004, I think it was. As for these other ones, when Wolverine came back, oh, sorry about that, came back just last year, it was the first time in 6 years. 6 years since the last Wolverine title was published. Yes, believe it or not, 6 freaking years. XFactor, believe it or not. Now, that ended back in 2015. This was basically the first one in 5 years when Peter Day wrapped up his run for the book. Let's see. Here we go. Cable, on the other hand, the last time this book was published was back in 2018. Yeah, it was actually late 2018, or it was actually early 2018. It was basically after the X-Men Legacy stuff wrapped up. Though the end of the series as a lead-in into Extermination. Though this X-Factor series is the first one not written by Peter David. Because Peter David generally wrote the X-Factor series mostly on and off since like 2012. Well, he wrote it basically the most popular run for the series that lasted from 2005 up until 2012. Though he did bring back X-Factor, though he set up that series as toward the end of his X-Factor series, which led into all new X-Factor. But then they brought back here, where basically the current X-Factor series is basically has a similar feeling to the Peter David X-Men series, though with new characters. Which I do appreciate, though, that we have all these X-Men characters, and I definitely do think all these series are necessary to exist. Why, you might ask? Because the X-Men franchise has got a cruise ship full of characters that a lot of the time the writers of the X-Men books don't care to use, or writers of Marvel just don't care about the damn book anyways, so why not have all these other group books? Yes, Cable and Wolverine, those are necessary to have ongoing series as solo books. But in the case of the other books, now, those books are fine, because a lot of these characters really have nothing to do. You can't cram all the X-Men characters into one book, which means they don't get a lot of time to shine. I think in the case of these books, basically, they do get a chance to shine, especially since there are all these other books. Yes. And you can also kind of think of the main X-Men series as an anthology book, despite the fact it's mostly like a spotlight on various characters, but most focus on the Summers family, which somehow Wolverine is part of that for some reason. Probably because he's an old friend of Cyclops. I don't know. Yep. But yeah, that's it for this particular review. Stay tuned for my reviews for my interviews, and I have one other comic corner to do today, and that's going to be it, okay? To the next video. Bye.